G'day, welcome back to the lemon rebuild, where we pull an engine out of a $400 banger and put it back into the white sing. I've preset this one up, ready to go, and I'll run you through the steps of how I pull an engine / running gear out. An engine swap out might look difficult, but with some basic mechanical knowledge, it's not too bad. Anyway, we'll get into the steps. Righto, step 1, job setup. Make sure you set up your donor car, your engine, / your car you're actually putting the engine into, in a spot that's not going to upset anyone. Yeah, Dad, it's only going to take the weekend. Next minute, like 3 weekends later / a year, you want to have it so no one's upset. So now with that job set up, take some photos of the area, maybe even a video. Come in here, babe, I'll show you. Let's show them. Where stuff used to run, where piping goes, pull the cover off, take another photo as you go. Righto, step 2, tooling, workshop manual, hydraulic jack, jack stands, engine stand, engine crane, oopsie daisy, it's okay though, and a workshop manual for the relevant vehicle. Grab this off eBay, I don't know, 20 bucks. But you can buy the CD, it's about $10 if you're not sure, and it'll give you enough info of what you need to do. So some extra bits and pieces you might require: WD-40, bit of brake clean / parts cleaner, contact clean out your plugs, a couple of paint markers to identify things, which I'll show you after. And what I reckon's the boss, some coloured cable ties. Righto, let's disconnect the battery and pull some covers off. Always disconnect the earth on the battery first. This is one I've set up earlier. Have yourself a bench, lay everything out as an assembly, so that way you've got it all, if you know what I mean. If you take the battery tray out, put an arrow on to face forward, so that way when you put them back in, you know which way to go in. Okay, stage 3, drain whatever fluids you need to. Majority of the times coolant, transmission, engine you're okay with, and yeah, go from there. So step 4, I reckon, draining fluids, and it's a combined of step 5 of hosing. So coolant hoses, fuel lines, aircon, which we'll talk about in a second, and power steering lines from the radiator. So I'll drop the bottom radiator hose. Some radiators have a drain plug. You can drop the coolant that way. Have a container that you can catch it in, and you're good to go. And with some cars, you've got to remove the radiator, disconnecting the automatic transmission cooling lines. I'm just going to throw a couple of old bolts in to plug the hoses up. I'll show you what I'm doing. As you can see here, the hose, just throwing a bolt in there, And then I'll just put the clamp back around it, and that'll just hold it and stop whatever residual oil, hopefully, is in there. Something else to be aware of is sometimes the radiator is connected to the air conditioning condenser. So for this case, we've got to cut the bolts that hold it. I'll zip them out. And then the radiator mounts. Sometimes it's just 2 brackets, 2 clips, maybe a few bolts. Stay. And it's also good practice to pull the radiator out. Just give it a wash out with the hose anyway. Have a look at that. Half the jungle in there. Righto, I reckon step 6, your power steering pump assembly, your air conditioning, those kind of things I unbolt from the main mounting bolts and just put them to the side, especially aircon, because you're meant to have a license to degas them and recover the gas. Obviously you know why, stuffs up the ozone layer. So try and be sensible with that. And again, the aircon on that white one's working mint, or was. So I put that compressor to the side, just cable tied out the way. Righto, step 7 with the wiring. You can use your paint marker, put a dot on the plug to the plug, then remove that, and then cross-reference that with your other car, or use some coloured cable ties. Bring the camera in. So you go around the cable, and then go around the plug, or around the assembly that it plugs into, sensor, and there you go. So with that, then that way you cross-reference that with your other engine and do the same with each sensor. So hopefully, when you pull that one out, it fits in and plugs up. So here's an example of the coloured cable ties and a bit of the paint marking as you pull it all apart. 8. Throw some WD-40 on the exhaust, around each bolt. Grab yourself a coffee or a beer, chill out and let that settle in. Disconnect your exhaust system from the engine. Righto, bonus part, yeah. I should have put this in a tooling. But yeah, parts container. These are handy with the permanent marker right on what it's for. That way you can leave that in the back of the car when you pack up. And in a week or two's time, / maybe a year when you go to put it back together, you've got it all organised. Righto. So, stage 9. Disconnecting transmission, gearbox, or just taking your drive shafts out or tail shaft off is the next stage, I reckon. So disconnecting an automatic transmission, you'll have a flex plate that's attached to the torque converter, and the ring gear's welded to that. So there's normally a few bolts that hold them in place. Once you've undone those bolts, push the torque converter back into the transmission and you'll have a bit of clearance there. Then removing the bell housing bolts. There'll be a few that go around. The starter motor might be in the way, which is just over here for us. Now if this is a manual transmission, you'll get away with pulling the starter motor off, those bell housing bolts out, and the engine will pull away from the gearbox. Here's an example of a manual transmission. So your clutch assembly will be still bolted to the back of the flywheel on the engine. So as you pull the engine out, they'll just slide off. And bell housing bolts. Starter motor goes in there. Yeah, hopefully that gives you some idea. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this out as one assembly, with motor transmission attached. So I've got to remove the drive shafts, or tail shaft. Here's a tail shaft on the ground, I'll show you. Out of a rear wheel drive Commodore, it's all bolted. Front wheel drive. So what I'm doing, I'm removing the front drive shafts out of this car so I can pull it all out. Disconnect the strut from the hub assembly. Drive shaft, pull it out. Now on the end of that drive shaft there, can you see that circlip? That should unclip as you pop it out and go from there. Righto, with everything disconnected on the engine and good to go, you've got lifting lugs normally on most engines that you can hook up to. If you don't have them, a main bracket, like something like that, you can hook to, wrap something around a big component, etc. Use a sling and shackle, or what I've just invested in, eBay special, is a engine leveler. We used this on our debuild rebuild to lift in the patrol engine, and it went in piece of. Alright, time to pull it out. Right, once you have taken the load of the engine gearbox with your crane, you can undo your engine mounts. For our example, it's got a few bolts. Yeah, good to go. Time to pull out the engine. Righto, would you call that stage 10, pulling it out? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, we've got this donk out, gearbox, transmission. Time to get stuck into pulling this one out as well. Then sit them side by side. We do have a little drama we've got to sort out, and I'll show you that later. Well, that little drama we were talking about, we had to think about it. We're not going to pursue any further. I'll show you what we're talking about. So this is our donor engine. As you can see, yeah, it's the donor engine. Now come have a look at this one. What can you see on the front? What do you reckon that's for? Oh wait, what's that for? Variable valve timing. So we were like, okay, well we might be able to swap the cylinder heads out, which could possibly work. Then we took the rocker cover off. What do you reckon? So, well, the decision is we're going to leave the donor car engine in there until we can get some finances up, and we'll recondition that other cylinder head, use that block, etc, etc, and build it up, throw it in the white one again. Alright, hopefully these steps help you out with your project. Any other little tips, throw it in there to help other people out. Take it easy, and yeah, see you when I'm looking at you.